Good night. Good night, Longi Plawara. I just want to make a little contribution to the ongoing dialogue along all issues affecting the country at the moment. Law and order issues, inflation, deeply rooted culture of corruption, nepotism, the lowering of standards in public service, compromising the integrity of most of the constitutional institutions that our founding fathers in their wisdom established in order to protect our democracy and rule of law. It is no secret that these are not issues that have just popped up now or under Honorable Marape's leadership. Many of these issues that we have in this country are legacy issues. Issues have always been all around, I think perhaps since independence. So that is why some of us say that it would have been better if independence was delayed so that much of Papua New Guineans were educated and their mindset brought into the modern world prior to granting independence. But be that as it may be, we have independence. Papua New Guinea is an independent country, and the issues that we have as a country are for ours to deal with. So, mi plano na make an excuse ko kam. But lilik thinking blomicho. Mi plau different kind monster. Some people don't really care about when is a maplo country, who becomes the prime minister, what happens, because only Omas, they're into themselves and their family. Whereas Sampla, Blomipla, we are affected by what happens in the country. We have an interest in who is elected the prime minister. We have an interest in who is appointed this and that minister. We have an interest in who is appointed the secretary of this and that department. And because Mipla thinking of some country, I think importantly me thinking of some country then divide along regional lines. So me salute Mampla flag tasong and Papua New Guinea flag Mipla black and gold. Awesome. Papua New Guinea is an educated person, whether you're a man, woman, a young man, or a girl. If you when you get educated and you become enlightened, and you open your mind and see how other countries are doing, like Fiji, like Lusimol big pla country, just me look all this like one kind country also me play it, Fiji, Solomon Islands, Tonga, countries like Singapore, although all advanced, but just look at all history belong all. Some of the African countries like Rwanda. Nah, you look at all this like country come. Now one notable something by looking also Mipla, for example, recently former Prime Minister belong Fiji, Frank Bainimarama was arrested and charged and is in jail now. And that is very rare in this country, Papua New Guinea. One big problem, very big problem that we have in this country has to do with our culture, our mindset, and our norms. That is the root of all problem. In this country, we praise and normalize what is called out and publicly condemned in other countries. For example, suppose one man Emi stop as a public servant. Na plan the corruption scandal Emi holy man. Emi correctable, Emi questionable. Whether Emi caught it clear Emi monogat the public opinion, Emi no standing blame Emi no clear. Or line no sa elect him times and upload election. That is because their culture, their mindset is different. But when it comes to Papua New Guinea, this doesn't matter. Now that's where we fail now. That's the mindset right there. The catalyst for failure is right there, you see. Whether leadership tribunal convict him or whether allegation him loom around or we don't actually care about all that. All we care about is our affiliation, our association, our tribal allegiance, and all considerations, which unfortunately and sadly are very detrimental to the growth of a country. We can never build a country with that kind of culture in a democratic society. As long as black is called white in this country, and as long as white is called black, and as long as we feel and we idolize and we praises on politicians who make their way to parliament through fraudulent means, as supporters, we know that their wins are not clear wins. They allow the ballot boxes of some candidates through using the returning officer to deliberately sideline them to make sure that they don't stay in the race. And then you forcefully do block voting, that if you have allowed the people to cast their votes themselves, would have been otherwise. And then you get into parliament and we have normalized this. It's happening here, it's happening there, it's happening all over the place. So there is no shame, there is no fear. We have just normalized what is supposed to be hated, shunned, disliked, and condemned. Whilst we on lip service, we do condemn. That is a cultural norm. What is illegal, what is unconstitutional has become norm. Our culture of acceptance makes it very difficult for us to uproot corruption. We praise ill-gotten gain. We don't care about how somebody gets rich in this country. As long as I'm buying beer, as long as I'm can make him competition, as long as I'm showing face laws cry, as long as I make him give him money, now I'm right man. So we don't dare care about how that person makes money. Now that is the problem we have. The problem why me blood facing all country problem and because what is a culture problem. Now look at it, for example. Teaching in other countries, teaching the profession of teachers is a very, very important profession. The teachers are well trained to be able to teach. Now, in this country, before white man look out, probably teaching selection was done. Okay, now you're looking. All teachers couldn't even speak English, couldn't even teach in English well. We have made entry to teachers' colleges as some sort of employment opportunity. We don't see the need for quality trained teachers. There is no policy designed to capture this, because when you look at the survival of the country depends on the upcoming generation. So the present generation has a duty to plan for the succession. You cannot hope on boombox generation and drunkards and ill-disciplined kids to take over the reins of government after we pass on. So as a government, we should be concerned about quality education. at the same time while advocating for quantity, increasing the quantity. Quality education. Entry in the public service like police force, defense force. Plenty time scandal come up where sample photocopy moneme na go na kind questionable moneme come up. So because we have made this entry to very important institutions as a means of employment, and that permeated and has overrun the nobility of the profession as to why it exists. If people continue along this path, now whom do we expect to rescue this country? We want to sell this country out. Our culture, people local country from these Nambis, the Highlands, people are all plenty, except few probably. I've been to East New Britain, and probably that is one of the few provinces where all Mansa vote straight. I can say I haven't been to other parts. I don't know about Manus. Or maybe Buka, the same, I don't know. But East New Britain is one of the places I've been, and I've seen that law is really observed there, regardless of the issues that they have. Now look at, so how do we intend to develop? So culture blomipla, I mean allow him development. I mean allow him change. That is why Mipla need him reform. If this is a country. Mipla talk yet. Now plenty Mipla Bagarab named to James Marabesta. Time somewhere stop. Time every time late grandchip Mipla somewhere stop. Na time Mipla talk corruption. One of them go Mipla singing this la. And when O'Neill took over from Somalia in 2011, we just praised him as a savior. He did some good things, some bad decisions. And then people started painting his pictures, all steal and all liar and whatnot. Now we have Marape. Marape come inside, same kind. The question I ask is, what is the assurance that you guys have that if we have a new prime minister, all these things will be addressed overnight? I don't think that the problem lies in prime ministers. I think the problem lies in the culture that we have. We have accepted what shouldn't be accepted as norm in this country. And it's going to be a very big problem for us. A prime minister will have to make politically suicide decisions in order to risk in this country. As long as a prime minister or any political government for that matter is more concerned about its political expediency to remain in power, these problems, the core problems in this country, will never be addressed. So with that, maybe there is a second point that I want to propose, is that Mipla need to reform in this political system of government. Democracy can stop, rule of law can stop, but we need to have a form of democracy that suits us as a people. For example, one plus something me proposed long, Prime Minister must be directly elected by the people. It was very good, although the matter is before the Supreme Court that Deputy Chief Judge Honorable Amben Kandakasi ordered for the Electoral Commission to consider introducing electronic voting in 2027. A very good, noble approach. Are we trying to address the problems faced by this country, or are we trying to serve the interest of a government, or people need to address them? We cannot afford to have political violence erupting every 5 years. Reforms must be taken. And apart from that, we need a political reform, a change. Papua New Guinea need to elect a prime minister direct. So that the prime minister will please him all this minister and political camps and so forth there. The prime minister will need to concentrate on the nation. And by consent less is removal in a vote of no confidence. Remove this vote of no confidence thing. Now let the prime minister be elected directly by the people in a general election. And on that, now ministers, I don't want, if I were to have my way, if I were to advise on the reform, ministers, they must not be elected members. Elected members can form a committee about supervise all performance from ministers. Ministers appoint all professionals. Let the top economist be the minister for treasury and finance. Let the top engineer be the minister for works. And all public servants now, all private people, but they let the prime minister pick them. Now let them run all departments. Because when they fail, the prime minister will be directly responsible, answerable to the people. Because them all pick man lo prime minister. And then we make such a way that that ministers, through the prime minister, is responsible to the parliament. And questions raised in relation to performance of a minister, prime minister can easily remove and fire those appointed ministers. The parliament can probably concentrate on law making, policy making, and supervising the performance of the ministers. In this way, we will have highly competent people looking after these ministries. For example, if we have a top lawyer running Attorney General office, if we have a very top doctor whose experience runs the Department of Health as a minister, if we have a former military man runs the Department of Defense, and if we have a career policeman becomes the Minister for Police. And just imagine all these, all man-bastard ministers there, and people are not electing them. They're chosen by the Prime Minister on merits, based on experience. Because anything they do will affect him, because he's directly responsible to the people. I'm a suggestion, that's all. We need to reform our form of government because the culture that we have, allowing. Before that, probably, a commission needs to undertake a reform in conjunction with the parliament and the NEC to introduce electronic voting. People can have the data stored in biometric form, and then people can slide their fingers or use fingerprint or other forms of like the iris or kind of similar voter. So people need him reform. People talk, go. Some of us are concerned about the country. People label him, demonize him, all prime ministers. How many prime ministers have we demonized so far? And what is the guarantee that the new prime ministers come will address the issues that we are facing overnight? One and Mipla block him Carlo Kagul breached that. Police are powerless to remove that. We are fighting and killing each other in anger. The police and military don't have the power to resolve that. On one hand, while this is going on, the Prime Minister is concerned with a looming vote of no confidence. Public funds are exhausted in both camps. We have sponsors coming in who would like to benefit in the change of government, or the government remains. We as a small country, a small economy, instead of building ourselves, politics is really dividing us. The culture is eating us. We need reform. Or no that, once all the natural resources that we have run out, we are looking at civil war. Crime rate will increase. Most of us who have money will escape this country and go elsewhere. Now you may all Turangu line, Bambla killing each other, KK each other, and style this country. It's time people start considering and taking elections very seriously. Start talk issues affecting country. Because country blow me, need him me. Sorry it'll take a long time, but almost some 1 to 2 to thing blow me. Me share him, this national discourse that you may got. Thank you, Lara, and blue plan, a good plan, night, plan. Bye. Cheers.